everyone, welcome back to the CNET stage. We're here live at International CES 2015. I'm Brian Cooley, and joining me, I'm very proud to announce we've got Mark Fields, the CEO of Ford. Mark, welcome.
Brian, thanks for having me.
Nice to have you here.
Appreciate it.
You are new on the job, but not new to Ford.
Right.
6 months now as CEO. We've had your predecessor, Alan Mulally, up here several times. This is all from the time 8 years ago when you were first here to announce Sync. Now, 8 years later, is also mapped very much to the rise, the renaissance of automakers here at CES. Your quick take, why are car makers at CES?
Well, I think we're here, and we've been coming here for 8 years now because it's a great place to showcase our innovations. And when you look at CES, it allows us to reach a different type of audience. But also, when you look at the features and the technologies in our vehicles these days, you know, it's very much like a lot of the consumer electronics type of technologies that are here.
Yeah.
So it's a perfect match.
The industry has trended more toward an electronic, information-driven, connected area. Are you differentiating less on the traditional values of styling and engineering?
Absolutely not. First, you know, we think of ourselves obviously as a car and truck company, but also as a mobility company and a technology company. So we're not going to take our eyes off that ball of great styling, making sure we have great fuel economy, safety, great quality, and smart technology in the vehicle, because we realize, you know, a car is a very emotional purchase for folks.
You have to be in love with a car to buy a car. It's a big deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. People are spending a lot of money on it, and they want to make sure that they're in love with it.
When you talk about this technology, you're talking about Sync 3 is your new announcement, and you were doubling down on that in your keynote this morning.
Right.
My Ford Touch was a bit of a hiccup. What about Sync 3 is different? You didn't just repair My Ford Touch. You made a clean break. You've got a new technology partner under the hood with QNX. What is the strategy now?
Well, first off, with Sync, the original Sync system and My Ford Touch, we've been extremely successful with that system. We have 10 million vehicles around the world that have Sync in it. In My Ford Touch, we learned some lessons, and we've taken those lessons and we've actually improved the quality of our current system, where the latest J.D. Power results, we're among the leaders in terms of quality and usability of the system. So now what we've done is we've taken those 8 years of experience, 8 years of feedback from customers, and we've used that to create Sync 3, which it's our next generation system. So what it's going to have more conversational voice activation, so enhanced voice commands. It's going to have a graphical user interface, which is more intuitive to use. It'll be more smartphone-like, so you can pinch and swipe and do things that you're doing on your smartphone.
Yeah.
It'll be faster, so the latency will be much more responsive. It will also have Series Eyes Free on it, so for customers who have iPhones. And then finally, it'll also have the ability to use Wi-Fi to get updated. As we update Sync 3 over time, a customer will be able, for example, to use their home Wi-Fi and be able to do that through their vehicle.
Now this brings me to the area of how you're going to integrate Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You're a partner with both.
Right.
At what point do you give up some real estate to them or not? Do you float all three systems? Or I'll have a Ford in the future with CarPlay, Android Auto, and Sync 3, and how do you parlay that to the driver?
Well, that's a really important question, because as a manufacturer and as a brand, we want to make sure that our Fords all have the Ford taste to it in terms of the feel, how the customer interacts with the vehicle. At the same time, we also have to realize that customers have their phones, and they like their phones, and they like the way those use.
The tension, if you will.
It's a tension, but also our approach is, how do we collaborate? How do we make sure we can satisfy that desire of the customer, but at the same time not give up control of the vehicle? Things like the climate control, things like navigation, things like how you use your phone.
Yeah, you don't let a non-auto player into those critical systems, do you?
Well, those mission critical systems, they get into braking, acceleration, things of that nature. Clearly, the safety of our customers is the most important thing, and we want to make sure there's a true bifurcation in our systems and a firewall between that. But for us, it's all about first listening to the customers, and then working and partnering with others, as we're doing with Google on a number of different things, and as we're going to do on CarPlay.
I heard you today say in your keynote, you made very clear the relationship on data is going to be one where it's user permission from these new apps and services. Absolutely. Nothing released without Ford permission. Underneath that, did I also read, oh, by the way, Apple and Google, it's our relationship with the customer. Is that also being said in there?
Well, I think this is kind of a bit of uncharted territory in the industry as we go forward. First off, you have to have customers who are willing to share data. and are willing to opt in. And for us as a company,
And this is a new area for them. They know about sharing on their phones, but the car is different, right?
it's different. It's location, it's where you're at, it's speed, it's all those type of things. So for us, we want to make sure that we are trusted stewards of that data. The customer owns the data, and we want to be trusted stewards. So at the end of the day, first and foremost, it's customers' data, and we have to be trusted stewards of that and not thinking that other companies or ourselves can do land grabs.
In a quick address that the Chevy folks did a couple days ago, they talked about rolling out some new OnStar services that allow you to do basically offers and coupons tied into where you're going or along your route. Where do you see, from the Ford point of view, offers and merchandising in the interface, whether it's through Sync 3, I guess that's where it would be if it's in your purview. Do you want to get into that? Is there a place where you want to have a merchant relationship or a merchant stewardship between businesses and your drivers?
Well, I think we have to tread very carefully here. And again, for us, it's all about listening to our customers. And anything that we do in terms of sharing the customers, if we get access to the customer's data and they allow us to, the customer has to see value coming back to them. I don't necessarily think, sending coupons or merchandising or things of that nature. I don't know what other manufacturers are
The
doing.
industry's tried it for years, and walking by a Starbucks and getting a coupon doesn't necessarily mean you want a coffee.
Well, I can't speak to what other manufacturers are doing. All I can say is we're listening to our customers, and as we're taking the opportunity to use their data, we're trying to ask them, what type of services do you want? What do you value? Because if you're giving up this data, the customer's going to want to see something of value. So it's simply as asking them, and that's the journey that we're on.
So not trying to invent appetites on their behalf, but to read them.
Exactly.
Now let's turn to an area that was, I think, a little more surprising for folks in your keynote today. You talked a lot about very broad mobility policy, infrastructure, how we use personal transportation, getting away from any particular tech or car model. Where are you going with that, and why bring that here?
Well, first off, we were here in the keynote. We're talking about the traditional things, talking about the products that we have, talk about Sync 3, the autonomous, semi-autonomous features that we have on our vehicles today, the development of the fully autonomous vehicles that we have in the pipeline. But we're thinking of ourselves not only as a car and truck company, but as a mobility company. And as a company, it's really important always to look at trends in the marketplace. Just like we did 8-10 years ago when we saw the rise of mobile phones and smartphones, and which led us to the development of Sync. Now we're looking at things like the growth of these huge cities, these 10 million population plus cities around there.
Dense mega cities, right?
Dense, the population density more than we can ever imagine. We're looking at the growth of the global middle class. It's going to double in the next 15 years. And one of the markers of that and rites of passage is being able to drive a car. So there's going to be even more cars on the road. And then looking at things like the health of the air quality. That's impacted by congestion and things of that nature. So we're stepping back as a company and asking ourselves, how do we want to take our tradition of innovation and take innovation and use it to help solve some of these very pressing global transportation and mobility issues? Because we want to be viewed as part of the solution. And by doing that, we think we'll obviously run a good business and there'll be business models in there for us. But more importantly, it'll satisfy customers and help create a better world to allow people to be more mobile.
To some people, they're going to hear in that vision the idea that people are going to be pushed more toward transit and a little more from personal cars, or they're going to spend less time with their personal car. Maybe fewer of them will own a personal car. There's a lot of unused capacity in the world of personal cars. Is there any, how do you work against that, especially in emerging markets where it's a blank slate? They don't have their first car yet.
Well, I think first you have to step back, and we are a growth company in a growth industry. If you think about the global car industry, it's more or less, this past year, it's about a $2 trillion business when you add up the purchase of vehicles, services, those type of things. Go out to 2020. Our view is that it will be a $3 trillion industry. That's $1 trillion of growth.
Yeah.
So you got to step back and open up the lens and say, first off, we're in a growth business. There's plenty of growth there. So even as we see in some instances in the major urban areas where potentially there could be less vehicles per 1,000 people than there have ever been before.
Right.
But that's okay. There's business models in there and business opportunities for us to provide mobility solutions that aren't even on our radar screen right now.
The solutions were. That means more things that interact, usually.
But not necessarily. I mean, what we talked about today was these 25 global experiments that we're doing around the world to solve some of these problems. And it's amazing.
So the many apps you rolled out today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for us, what we get out of it is, first off, we're a global company, so we get to learn from the customers in that part of the world how they're viewing their mobility issues, and gives us insights. The second thing it does, it allows us to forward the conversation about mobility. And the third thing it does, it introduces us to some great partners that we might want to partner with going forward to provide solutions and a good business for us.
Okay, I don't want to hold you too long. Detroit Auto Show coming up, starting press days on the 12th,
Yes.
next Monday. Give us a little teaser.
It's going to be a very exciting show for Ford Motor Company, and we really look forward to you being there.
Did you take all the tech and put it here, or you'll hold something for Detroit?
We have so much. We're doing a lot here at CES, and we'll have a lot on the plate.
Detroit.
Oh,
right.
You bet.
All right, Mark, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, Mark Fields is the CEO of Ford Motor Company, joining us here, live CNET coverage of International CES 2015. I'm Brian Cooley. Sit tight, we've got more coming up.